So shout out to my glow up from 10th to 11th grade. I feel bamboozled. One piece for peanut butter, one piece for cheese whiz. And only twice in my life have I ever peed my pants. One was right here, drunkenly booking it down this mountain. Please nobody be watching me do this. After making my 10th grade video, one of my friends who I haven't spoken to since high school emailed me. Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome to 2006-2007, my 11th grade year. If you're new to these childhood favorites, there's an entire playlist down below where we start in like 3rd grade and go through every single year of my life, the books that I was reading, the things that I was up to, and now we're in 11th grade, which means there's only one more episode left. But if you're following along to the journey of this video series, there will be one before 12th grade where I read your childhood favorites. But 11th grade was a great year for me. I have lots of things to show you and talk to you about. Most of my time was spent in school, at work, or partying. So there wasn't a lot of time for reading, or I didn't make time for reading rather. So while I was reading like the Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Stalking series, still at this time, like those books were actively coming out. I already read that entire series in a video, and I would have still been reading like Archie comics and Babysitter's Club and series we've talked about before. So I have a classroom book that we read together in 11th grade English. I have a Stephen King that I read that year, and then I'm subbing in some things that I probably would have been rereading, but definitely for the first time I was reading younger than 11th grade. But all of these I saw on various book lists. Ever since I started this video series, I've loved looking at other people's childhood favorites, and all of these covers sparked a memory for me, especially this one, because I talked about how I never read the Sweet Valley High series, but I read the Unicorn Club series, and this was Sweet Valley Junior High, which is tied to that series, and this brings back a lot of memories. We've got another Judy Blume. We have The Earth, My Butt, and Other Big Round Things, which I remember being gifted to me, and then I have a spooky book called The Haunting. Oh, and then also, I don't know if any of you remember Post Secret, but I grabbed a copy. First, we need to get a vibe for my 11th grade self. So I would have been 16, 17. I think the summer before 11th grade, I switched jobs, going from Tim Hortons to the Ramada Hotel. It was just down the street from Tim Hortons, so every day after work I would still go over and meet up with all of my friends who still worked at Tim Hortons. I kept my name tag from that job, and then I also kept one of these little tags that you would have to put in the room after you cleaned it. I was a housekeeper, just to say who your room was made up by. And I had that job all through 11th grade, 12th grade, and then when I went into art school. One of my coworkers actually that turned into a supervisor while I worked there, she was the one who got me into the Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Stalking series. In fact, she has commented on my videos before, so I know that she might be here. So just shout out to her for introducing me to Georgia Nicholson and bringing me the latest books in the series. What was going on for me in 11th grade, she would be horrified to learn dating one of the bellboys, as was my best friend who got me the job or introduced me to apply at the job to begin with. We worked there for a little bit together. We were 16, they were like 24. It was a lot of drama. She ended up moving in with a boy. My mom and I would regularly go and pick her up before our shifts together. Sometimes she just like wouldn't come out, and I'd have to like break into their house and get her to come to work. We hung out with this big group of guys we shouldn't have been. They called me Cinzio. That was my nickname because I would go after work and walk across the street to the mall and bring cinnamon buns to the crew. Anyway, working as a housekeeper, best job ever, just by myself all day listening to music, cleaning. Like, it was a great time, but it was also exhausting. And by all day, I mean just like Saturdays and Sundays. I wasn't allowed to have colorful hair at this job, so all of my colorful hair from 10th grade, I had to dye, and I think I went to like just a bright red because that was reasonably realistic of a color. And I was allowed to have facial piercings though, which I wasn't allowed at Tim Hortons. So this year I got my lip pierced. So shout out to my glow up from 10th to 11th grade. I went from emo to boho. 2007, the vibe was very much tunics. We went from like crop tops to long tops. This was the vibe. What else were we into? Oh, Adam Brody, the OC. Actually, Laguna Beach was a really big thing at this time. Beyonce. Oh, an article on Are You Too Trans Fatty? A spread of Kristen Stewart. These stunning images. And what kind of articles? Oh, How to Love Your Mom. pet heroes, kisses he'll go crazy for, and a report about how boys get eating disorders too. Now, I don't think there's any pictures of me in the yearbook because I don't think I was in any clubs in 11th grade, but there is a picture of me. I guess I did retakes because I have curly hair in that one. Oh, Rob would have been in 12th grade. So let's find the picture. Oh man, the things that people wrote in Rob's yearbook. Rob's just really a lovable guy. The enthusiasm that people have writing in Rob's yearbook is just unparalleled. Hey babe, you make my life. You always find a way to make me laugh. Rob, my love. I love you. You're the shit. You're a weird guy. Robbie, you creepy motherfucker. And there he is, my guy. Printed in color. His yearbook came in color. I'm gonna have to look through pictures. I'm gonna pop some things up here. I think I'm gonna film myself looking through videos and photos later for my channel members as just like a bonus video. The only places I really shopped were Hot Topic, and then I started shopping at, I think it was called Urban Behavior in 11th grade. That's where I got all of my tunics. I started wearing a little bit less makeup in 11th grade for sure. I had a new best friend in 11th grade. She moved here and she was like objectively way too cool for me. She's the one who got me into jewelry. I still have a Dolce & Gabbana bracelet that she gifted me for Christmas in 11th grade. I got her, I think it was a Chanel one. She also got me into perfume, and I kept my very first box of Vera Wing's Princess that I ever got because it was really special. Big sunglasses were definitely a thing, and I was shaving my eyebrows in 11th grade. Not shaving them off, but rather than tweezing, because so many people overplucked at this time, but I was shaving instead of tweezing, which, like, yeah, looked stupid, but at least the hair grew back, so there's that. My new friend also got me into Starbucks chai. I have a picture actually of how we would order it. We would get a venti 3-pump non-fat chai. People started getting their licenses at this age, so we would have like a 15-minute break between classes, and we would get someone to drive us to Starbucks and try to get back before we were back in class. We were late a lot and in trouble a lot. We would just like go try on clothes at Winners. We were partying every weekend. I'm sure I have horribly embarrassing photos and videos. I would just film everything. It was super obnoxious of me, but I love that little camera. We also had matching razors. I had a pink one. I was in love with it. And then pulling up my class schedule from 11th grade, I had social studies, art, biology, Spanish, fine arts, math. I took art twice in grade 11. Okay. Photography, and then English. So speaking of English, we were reading Lord of the Flies, so this is where I'm going to start today. Before starting my read, I have to drop off some bookmarks at my mom's house and get some caffeine. If you had told me that me and my mom would have a cute little bookmark business when I was in 11th grade, I would just love that. Speaking of driving though, and my mom, I do have a video of my first time driving on a real road with my mom's commentary, so enjoy that.
Hello? What? Do you see a stop sign? Are you turning right? No! Dude, no! I thought I could turn right. No, you can't, because there's no road that way.
Look, I yielded.
Yes, you did.
Oh gosh.
How about you slow down?
Okay.
Because you're going 60 again.
Can I put on cruise control?
No. I foresee many speeding tickets in your future.
How many tickets have you had?
In my life?
Yeah.
5?
I'm not a car.
It's parked. Parked cars present no danger.
Well,
Okay, so I just got my regular chai because back then they didn't have like any dairy alternatives, so I'm gonna drink it with almond milk because I can. To this day, still enjoy a Starbucks chai. I think with every book this week and every day this week, I can snack like my 11th grade self, eat something. So today's nostalgia is the least nostalgic because I still drink this now. I've been anticipating reading this since the very first Childhood Favorites episode. I have been looking forward to it, dreading it, all of it, because I read books all the time that are inspired by Lord of the Flies. You know, Wilder Girls is one of my favorite books. Even like Alone Out Here, I think that's what it's called, is like Lord of the Flies in space, beauty queens, Lord of the Flies inspired. And I talk about my love for this all the time, and I've been worried that once I picked it back up, like maybe it wouldn't hold up, or maybe I just personally wouldn't like it. And I do wish that I could remember like what the conversations were in class, because I do know that I had my favorite English teacher. I've actually never had an English teacher that I didn't like. Every single English class I had was incredible, but this has been like the standout read for me, and I can never remember, like, was it just me who loved it, or was it a great classroom discussion? And I still like don't really know, but I'm halfway through and it's going great. There's been nothing that has come up that I haven't liked. Now, I'm not connecting to it in any way, but I think if I were to have a discussion about this, there are many things that would be interesting to talk about. And it's fun because the person who must have donated this, they've highlighted a lot, so maybe this was a classroom read for them. They highlighted like the most obvious leader was Jack, but there was stillness. And then they highlighted Piggy, and I think maybe they're like establishing characters in their mind every time there is a description of somebody. But then there's also just some ominous quotes that are highlighted, and I wonder if it was doing something for them. So Lord of the Flies, if you don't know, William Golding, it's about a group of boys who end up on this island alone and they have to survive. They're talking about how there was a plane crash, how some of their fathers are involved in the military and will definitely be looking for them right now. And so they create little groups within themselves and they fight over like leadership, and the whole point of it, I think, is what people will do, or what children will do, or what boys will do when left to their own devices. And I think more so what type of impact violence and witnessing certain things has on people, has on children, like what trauma will do to the mind. A lot of the story is kind of fun. It's just about them surviving, them going out and hunting and feeling accomplished. But then there's a lot of fear of each other, of what might be in the forest, the idea that maybe they will never be saved, and there's a big struggle for power. Actually, maybe even a children's Bible. I'm just thinking of things that I would recommend for fans of Lord of the Flies. But all the books that are inspired by Lord of the Flies, they really don't do it the same way. It's just a basic, there's a bunch of people on an island, and then it takes a completely different plot, obviously. All right, sorry I didn't update you. I didn't finish this last night. I just finished it now. I'm about to do a movie night with my channel members, which I'm so excited about. We're watching Disturbia. Rob and I were actually working on our puzzle finally last night instead of me reading. It's very slow moving, that puzzle, but it's fun. I wouldn't say that this needs to be read by like everybody on the planet. I'm sure it's still read in schools. I think that's cool. I don't think that the place that the world was in and the people that this book features, like, it's going to be relatable for everyone everywhere. It, I think, could be impactful for a specific group of people. The themes about power and corruption and fear are all very like clear, and I just generally love stories about survival, following a whole group of people, seeing how the dynamics work and change over time. And you can see how this has impacted so many other books, like Stephen King to begin with. The boys call this like Castle Rock, and that has inspired Stephen King's universe. Unfortunately, with the setting and with who we're following and everything, the use of savage is so much in here. The idea of this group of boys becoming savages, when obviously we know that to be a derogatory term. I was surprised we went until like the last chapter before the N-word was in here, so at least there's that. And obviously I understand that that's a product of its time as well. Sorry, I have to keep an eye on the clock because it's only 5 minutes till my live show. And I understand that perspective, but when people say things like, well, it doesn't matter, that's where you lose me, because you can't deny that the casual use of shitty language inspires the next generation of like white authors and shitty language. Like Stephen King read this, saw the N-word, used the N-word. Donna Tartt read Stephen King's book, saw the N-word, thought, okay, I'll use the N-word too. It's not a big deal. Delia Owens reads A Secret History, uses the N-word in her book. Like, it's a continual dismissal of impact, I think, that is the annoying part of that conversation. Talking briefly about movies though, some things that came out at this time. One of them, obviously, Disturbia. Rewatching it today because it's the Halloween season. It feels like a thriller is a good idea, and I loved this when it came out. I also found movie tickets for Across the Universe. I remember seeing it with a boy and I thought it was Rob for some reason, or like it was as a group, and he has no memory of ever seeing it, so I guess it wasn't him. And then I have one for License to Wed, which is fun because I absolutely loved a rom-com. And then I also have one for I Am Legend, which I think I enjoyed. I haven't ever rewatched. What else came out at this time? Oh, this was like the era of Superbad, Knocked Up, Juno, like some of my favorite movies. And then also Hot Rod came out at this time, which I also loved, and The Mist. Speaking of Stephen King, we got The Mist. So let me go watch Disturbia, introduce it to a lot of folks, which is fun, and then I'm gonna read my Halloween haunted book after that. Okay, adequately spooked. Disturbia was pretty good. I think overall, as a community of like 100 people, we would give it like a 3 out of 5. I'm home alone. It's gotten dark, so why not continue with the thrills? This is called The Haunting. It's book 1. It's called The House on Cherry Street. Is that the series, or is The Haunting the series? I think the series is called The Haunting. I just remember this little girl and this cover very well. I don't really know what the age range is, but it says Jason, his little sister Sally, and their parents are spending the summer in a vacation house by the lake. The House on Cherry Street. A house where a young boy died mysteriously many years earlier. A house where no children are safe. Hold on. Screams in the night. Windows that slam shut like guillotines, floors that shake beneath their feet. The house wants Jason and his sister out, or worse. Welcome to Cherry Street, where the dead don't sleep. Ow. Anyway, the snack for today is peanut butter, honey, and bananas. I feel like this isn't that weird. Peanut butter was just my thing. Peanut butter and honey sandwiches, peanut butter banana sandwiches. I was not into peanut butter and jelly ever. Ew. I also hated Nutella, but peanut butter and honey, that's my shit. For sure. Tomorrow I might pick up some Cheese Whiz because haven't had this since high school, but I definitely occasionally had peanut butter and Cheese Whiz sandwiches. Don't look at me. I know it sounds, and it is weird, and it probably wouldn't hold up now with these taste buds. But we'll do that tomorrow when I go to the store. I feel bamboozled. This thing keeps happening to me in like fantasy books, where I'll pick up the first book in a fantasy series and it's just a setup for the second book and not a lot really happens. Wasn't expecting that to happen to me today, but here's the good news. There's a bunny on the cover. Beyond the book referencing bunnies, it also references Stephen King. The guy's wearing a Stephen King t-shirt. And I just feel like that nicely ties into my life and my next read, which is gonna be The Long Walk. But yeah, it's about a haunted house, kind of. It's this 12-year-old kid. I should have read it with Liam, but he went to bed. He's got this little sister, that's her, and her bunny. And he feels very protective over her, and like he keeps hearing weird noises and seeing strange things in this house that they just moved into. But really it's just 200 pages of him hearing a sound, and then it turns out to be his dad. And then like seeing something move out of the corner of his eye, and it's a rat. So it's like all of this build up, scene after scene after scene. It happens probably 15 times. And like the house, I think, is definitively haunted. We have a series to read apparently, but it was really just introducing a lot of ideas, and it wasn't is my critique that it wasn't scary? A book for children didn't frighten me at my big age. 2 stars. I'm just kidding. There was definitely a scene that I remembered reading, which is always fun, where the animals, the stuffed animals and the toys all kind of come to life. And I think that was the only like clear haunted part of the story, and who knows what's gonna happen in the rest of the series. Never read it, never gonna read it. Speaking of bunnies and my nickname being Trix, like Trix, I found a card from my bestie who nicknamed me Trix, and it has an old lady on it. This would have been Well, according to her, it was for my 80th birthday, but it was probably my 16th or 17th. It says birthdays, they're like a bitch slap from Father Time. Today is the day for a long walk, both literally and bookishly. So moods are low. I'm feeling very low this week. I feel like that's continuing on from the last vlog, and hopefully it all turns around because I need to get into the Halloween spirit, and next week is all for like horror and thriller reads. So hopefully the combination of getting some fresh air, going for a walk, then going for coffee with a friend after, and reading a good book all combines to turn my mood around. And it is going well because I've gotten significantly into this, but I haven't felt like filming. I haven't felt like doing much, honestly. But I'm gonna listen to the audiobook for the last, I think it's like 70 pages or so. Like, I'm so far into this and it's going so incredibly well. And I'm so happy. So The Long Walk was originally written under Richard Bachman, which was Stephen King's like fake name. And I really enjoyed the whole intro in this. I consistently love books that talk about books and talk about writing and critique different things. So he's just talking about his experience writing under Bachman, why that was important to him, why he felt like betrayed when his name got like revealed, how disappointing that was for him, and how like it took something away from him because he really wanted the opportunity to explore a different part of his writing and his personality without like the pressure or the expectation of writing under Stephen King. And also, like, he was coming out with books every single year and his publisher didn't want to publish more than one book a year from him, so he was writing under this name. So this story follows this guy named Ray Garrity, who is one of 100 boys, I think between the ages of 12 and 18, I want to say, who have to just walk until they can't anymore. It's not a race, but it's whoever is left standing at the end wins, and he's gonna win a lot of prizes, like competition books. This is probably where it started for me. And in this dystopian setting, they regularly run these walks, and somebody wins every time, and that person is seen as, you know, just like incredible. The person who is running the entire thing, the general, is this like celebrity figure, and basically you have to not only keep walking, but you have to walk at a certain pace the entire time. And there are people following you with guns who will shoot you if you don't follow the rules. And it's funny because I picked this. I feel like there are a couple things I could have chosen between that I read around this time, but I've always wanted to reread The Long Walk, and I was thinking at least like this is just about 100 boys that we're following, and so it will be free of the uncomfortable descriptions of women that you find in so many Stephen King books that I just didn't feel like reading. But alas, we got descriptions of Ray's mother and her breasts, and there's like crowds that these boys are walking past, and there's women in the crowds, and weird things are happening. But there's definitely less of that than a lot of his other books. There's still very uncomfortable things going on as far as like, I guess what Stephen King thinks teenage boys are thinking about, even in this life or death scenario. The things that he makes them talk about and think about are just like weird. But I mean, that is a horror element of it, right? Like, the experience itself is horrific, and then also it's supposed to make you just feel weird. But mostly it's just kind of a survival story, and the boys are just chatting the entire time and like talking about their ailments and the things they're struggling with and watching other people die. And Ray Garrity is such an interesting character to follow because he kind of wants everybody to succeed, even though he knows that only one person is going to be alive at the end, and obviously he hopes that's him. But there's this element of like the group accomplishing something together too, because, you know, by the end they're going to be walking for 5 to 7 days, and the longest that the entire group has ever walked successfully together without losing somebody has been like a certain amount of miles. So they feel like this camaraderie at the beginning that's like, well, let's just beat, you know, the last record that has been set, and we'll all make it to this mile marker, and like we'll feel like we've created a bond. Anyway, it is going well, and I'm gonna take you on a little walk. This is where we would party in like 11th grade specifically. If I was partying with the school like Robbie's school, then it was a house party, but at my school in this part of town, it was always bush parties. So there was one place that we would drive and it would be like a forestry road, and you would drive to the designated spot, and it was different every weekend. So it was like we'd go to 2K or 5K or 10K, and that's like how far you would drive before the bush party would be. But then there was also this spot, which was in walking distance to, like, you pretty much knew somebody who lived in this area, and you could like pre-game at their house and then walk up this hill. And once you got to the top, there would always be like a bonfire. So this is it. Very thrilling, very steep. We called these the sand lines. I don't know if that's what they're technically called, but you would just get the text where the party was. Meet us at the sand lines or meet us at 2K. And only twice in my life have I ever peed my pants. One was at 9 months pregnant in a parking garage. Super embarrassing. And one was right here, drunkenly booking it down this mountain because there was like a ride to catch at the bottom. Okay, I do think I feel a bit better. Ate some food, had some coffee, chatted with a friend, bought some new stationery because that always improves your mood. And I finished the long walk. I think I'm giving it a 4-star. I would still consider it like an all-time favorite Stephen King because I haven't reread so many of them and I have no idea if any of them hold up. The audiobook was definitely decent if you're considering reading it like that. I could have read the entire thing like that for sure. I really liked the ending. It was kind of ambiguous, but had a couple realizations and a couple moments for our main character to grow and change. Though I find that Stephen King does the same twist a lot of the time. I've talked about how he recycles the same plot a lot. You're following really similar characters in really similar scenarios, a really similar character voice. But also I'm realizing a lot of his like reveals, and by that especially I mean like past trauma that gets revealed, that happens a lot and in the exact same way. And sometimes I wish it was maybe explored more, or more of a journey throughout the entire book rather than just one scene and one mention and then it's kind of over with. I don't know. It was definitely a 4, and it was weird reading how exhausted these people were and like how close to death they were while I was like really tired on my hike. And when I got to the top of the hill, houses had been built. I know, shocking that nature has been destroyed for housing in 15 years since I've been in that area. But yeah, there was no open field where I remember hanging out. Anyway, I cannot find peanut butter cookies at any Tim Hortons. It's probably just not the season for them. And I remember them not selling well when I worked there anyway. I would make like 1 batch a day when I worked as a baker. But every single day that I would bake peanut butter cookies, I would make 2 extra peanut butter cookies. And it was imperative that it was right as they came out of the oven that you would do this. But I would take 2 and I would put whipped cream in the middle and make a little peanut butter cookie sandwich, and I would eat it, and it was the most delicious thing. And since I'm really committed to my joy today, I bought an entire pack of peanut butter cookies because this was the only alternative, and a whole thing of whipped cream. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this now. They're also not hot out of the oven, so it's not gonna be the same experience. But indeed, in the parking lot of the grocery store, please nobody be watching me do this. Bon appetit. Oh my god. You know what? Even with it not being hot, it's still a freaking peanut butter cookie, so it's a great time. I'm gonna go home now. Third costume change of the day. I'm home now. I just turned on my heat for the first time this year, which feels so weird. So here's what I got. I got a set of pens that are pastel and pretty, and they say like, great idea. Today's a good day. And then I got these bookmarks that I think are really pretty. They're gold. They say 1 more chapter. Oh, one of them says 1 more chapter. The other one says to be continued. And then I grabbed this as my little scheduler for the upcoming year. It's from Orange Circle Studio. They always have such great quality, and I love this like rubber cover, and it's to match my reading journal for the year, which I just got in the mail, and it's so pretty. I get these from Stella Bookish Art on Etsy, and they always match like my vibe. Or maybe it's just what's trending at the time, but like like 2020 was like the white and the gold and the clean marble aesthetic. And then last year was very like celestial, spooky girl vibes. And for 2023, I'm preemptively calling it my soft girl era. And her style for this year's reading journal just really matches what I'm feeling. What I'm trying to feel, let me be clear. What I'm attempting to manifest my vibe and my feelings about the world as. The only thing I still need to get is my next bullet journal, my giant bullet journal that I live and breathe by. Last year's vibe was gold, and I think we need to pick out like a pastel for next year, but I always wait until they have like their Black Friday sale in November. Anyway, what I'm gonna read today is Get Real, Sweet Valley Junior High by Francine Pascal, who wrote all of the, or created all of the Sweet Valley High books, following Elizabeth and Jessica, which I've never read. But I definitely read the first at least 2 books in the series because I recognize both of the covers and I know exactly what this is about. So Elizabeth and Jessica are 2 very different people, have had very different experiences in school. Like one of them has been really popular and has had a lot of friends, and one of them is more like bookish and struggles with, I don't know, meeting boys and making friends and that type of thing. And they're both starting a new middle school or junior high. Instead of going to the middle school, they're going to a junior high, and all of their friends remained in middle school, so they have to make a whole new set of friends. And I remember that the book kicks off with whoever is friends with Lila, whatever her name is. They decide to go to school on their first day wearing matching plaid skirts, but they're like purple and green because they have a unicorn club, which is just like a group of the most popular girls in school, and they have to wear purple every single day. I talked about this when I read the Unicorn Club in another vlog, forgetting that this series ever even existed. And so whichever one it is goes to school wearing that, and then everybody makes fun of her, which is such an unfamiliar experience to her because she's always been part of like the popular girls group. Meanwhile, her twin sister is like making all of these new friends and just like really thriving, and so they're in completely different environments than they're used to. Oh my god, turns out Lila didn't even wear the kilt to school. So Jessica was just on her own. And she spent like all of her back to school money on it too, and then got abandoned by her best friend. Bad best friend behavior. Okay, well this one was definitely a win. This is the exact feeling that I'm looking for in these childhood favorite videos, where I remembered the book. I remembered this so well, every single scene. There's a moment where her new friend throws Gatorade on her when she's standing in line for like a concert, because her and Salvador went together when he was supposed to be like having a movie night with Anna just as friends, but she's obviously in love with him, and I wonder how that turns out in the rest of the series. And then there's the swimming scene. I remember reading that because they got like swimsuits, and I was like, wait a minute, are you saying they have a pool in their school? That was just the coolest idea to me. Like, we had a swim team at our school. There was only a couple people on it, and they definitely had to go like to another location. There was no pool at the school. So they got their suits and they were talking about how unflattering they were, and then the teacher was being like awkward and talking about people's periods and how she doesn't want people in the pool, how you can get athlete's foot in the shower, so you always have to wear your flip-flops, and the girls were just super embarrassed. I was just thinking, I have my planning guide still for some reason. Some of the things that I kept, they make sense, and some of them it's like, what? And I wonder what classes I could have taken, because this is basically what lists all of the courses that are available to us. Because like you had the classes you had to take, and then you had electives. So I did photography and art. My photography, I really just discovered macro photography, and that's all I cared about. I just thought it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. So that was my entire like photography portfolio. And we spent the entire class just like taking pictures and videos of ourselves. We did like I doubt I can show you the video because there's so many people in it, but we would regularly just like set my video camera up in the middle of the table and rotate it like it was That 70s Show, and we would just like spin it around and we would just talk to the camera like we were vlogging in 11th grade. I started actually vlogging in 12th grade, so look forward to those clips. And I think this just perfectly embodies, regardless of age, the feeling of like not feeling comfortable, not knowing people, not having friends at your school or just in your classroom, or at lunch you have nobody to sit with, and that just like insecure feeling that follows you through every single stage of school, I find. Or maybe it's just me, like lacking the confidence to sit with a new group or to sit alone. I don't know. I think back on high school really fondly. Like, I consider myself having a good high school experience. Like, I think as an outsider, you would probably look at my high school experience as not good because I was like horrifically uncool. But like, I enjoyed the actual act of going to classes and studying and researching and going to the library. And like, obviously I did a lot of classes that I found interesting. So while I look back on it extremely fondly, you could not pay me to go back and feel these feelings again. So apparently Post Secret is still a thing. Like, it's still a website that's running, which I had no idea about. But I feel like Chicken Soup for the Soul walked so Post Secret could run, and Post Secret walked so Humans of New York could run. Like, there's something about learning strangers' stories and secrets that you've never met, you'll never meet in your life. Just learning the inner thoughts of a stranger is something so fascinating in society, and being able to relate to somebody. So if you don't know, Post Secret is this website where people would send in postcards, and the website, like a blog, would post the postcards, and they each have a secret on them. And then once it got popular enough, they published this book, and a lot of the postcards are in here. So there are things like, "You're way too good for me." Just, you know, vague statements like, "I wish my father had forgiven me." And there's also a lot darker things. Like, I remember one of them was like about murder or something, and people would get so creative with them. And I've even made my own post secrets. Like, some of my friends and I think we did it in art class. We would like cut out things from magazines. We'd make these super artsy postcards, and I don't think we ever actually sent them, but I absolutely remember making stuff like this. Some of them are like art, some of them are photographs, and some of the pages are like themed. So, "I miss feeling close to God," or "I had gay sex at church camp." I was just flipping through this and remembering like scrolling through the blog with my friends at school. And this was very elusive, like getting your hands on this book, because obviously we were teenagers. We weren't gonna spend however much this was, $30 American, on like a coffee table book. Like, that wasn't much of a thing. This is Inside Out. Why did nobody tell me that? Don't worry, I haven't been wearing it all day. I just threw this on over my pajamas, so you thought I was professional. Anyway, speaking of embarrassing things, that's the perfect transition into something I'd like to share with you. So we all loved Post Secret. Like, me and all of my friends obsessed over it, looked at it all the time, talked about the secrets. I feel like some of them are so clearly fake. Like, of course you're just gonna say anything, right? You want to end up on the blog, you want to end up in the book, so who's fact checking these things that you're sharing? And that's why, like, my number one fastest TikTok swipe is "Am I the Asshole" posts, or like you know, people exposing their secrets, because they just have no impact if the person's not actually there sharing it. Just these anonymous secrets, like, they don't feel like anything, like anyone can say anything. So me and my friends, we definitely had a couple pages like this in high school on like MySpace, Nexopia, whatever, where we built it out like this. And it would be like, "Share your secrets." And then we would go in and we would code the page, and it would share people's secrets. And what I learned really quickly is, like, people will say anything, because we did it so nobody would know who we were, but then we as the page would message people that we knew in real life and be like, "Hey, we want to post your secret. Like, we're just a random page who loves to post secrets, and we found your profile, and like, share a secret with us in the DMs." And then we would put it on the profile anonymously. But it wasn't anonymous to us because we were in the messages, and we would find out things about people we went to school with. But it quickly turned into like people saying things that absolutely weren't true, and we knew they weren't true. And how we thought we would get away with like finding out people's secrets, I don't know what that was about. So I had these two main friends who I would do this type of stupid stuff with. And After making my 10th grade video, one of my friends from high school, who I haven't spoken to since high school, emailed me. And she reminded me of something very funny that I have no need to like expose, but I just find it so funny. If you recall my 10th grade video, I talked about this book series that I loved, and I had a blog post where I said how much I loved it. How much I wanted my friendship to be like the friendship from this book series. And then I read the book series and I said, I've never read this. Like, no memories, no clue. And I guess I just brushed that off as like me having a bad memory, but I don't have a bad memory. But then I got an email from my friend who was like, Kayla, that was my favorite book series. How do you not remember that we wrote in each other's blogs? Like, so my little friend group, there might have actually been 4 of us. We all had the passwords to all of these like fake pages, but also each other's pages, because that was like the marker of a really close friendship, is you had each other's passwords. It's hard to explain why we did this because the logic doesn't really make sense. I didn't even understand. I was like, why would we have done that? Why would we write on each other's blogs? Like, that seems so random. Like, I understand, well, I don't understand like checking up on each other's, like whatever we could have been looking at or wanting to be in each other's profiles for, but like, what would be the point of posting on each other's blogs? Because like, what if your friend posted something really questionable and then it's tied to like your name? And then she was like, that was the point. Like, the point was if you wrote a really like targeted blog post, something like, I mean, we were bitches, okay? So it would be like, oh my god, there's a bitch in my socials class. Every time she speaks, I want to like punch her in the face. Like, we would just use our blogs to vent and nobody was reading them. And it was really just like stream of consciousness, whatever came into your mind, you would just post on your blog. And I think the point was even like, if somebody called you out for saying something, you could just be like, oh, that was my friend. Because it was well known that everybody did this. Like, everybody had each other's passwords. I don't think everybody posted on each other's blogs, but everybody had each other's passwords if you were best friends. So you always had the fallback option of being like, no, that wasn't about you. My friend posted that about her socials class. Like, we did that thing where we posted on each other's blogs. When you don't want to expose your own secrets on your own blog, you put it on someone else's, so you can still have the venting moment, but it's not like public. I don't know. So anyway, me looking through all of my old posts, not that they don't make me want to absolutely crawl into a hole and die still. Those books that I read last video, I didn't read them in high school. I didn't love them. I recognized them because they were my friend's favorite book series and she talked about it all the time and she had them on her bookshelves. On that note, I am going to finish looking through this because I always wished that I had this as a teen. I don't think I ever even got a chance to look through it in real life, so it just feels cool. The thrift books had it for a reasonable price. And then next, because we're on the friendship train, I'm gonna read Just as Long as We're Together by Judy Blume, which I didn't think that I had read because every time I searched up the Judy Blume books and books from my childhood, I saw a different cover for this. And then randomly on some book list that I saw, it was this cover and I was like, oh my gosh, I have read that Judy Blume. I loved that Judy Blume. But first, today's taste test is Cinzio. I mean, is there even a question if cinnamon buns hold up? This is obviously a win. Oh my god, yum. Hello, welcome back to my cupboard. I am not looking forward to this sandwich, but we're gonna make it. What I've been up to today is reading a bit of this. I'm not too far into it. I remember so much more of this than I thought. And I feel like I'm a combination of these 3 girls. One of them plays the flute, me. One of them's nickname is Pumpkin by her dad, me. And then one of them hides in her closet to talk privately on the phone, which is absolutely something that I did. They're also playing Spit, which is a card game I remember. Also this morning, I have been building my Spotify playlist for you all. So last time I shared with you my 10th grade playlist. There was like 20 songs on it that I loved and listened to in 10th grade, from like Alexis on Fire to AFI to Census Failed to The Used, System of a Down. And while I was still listening to these things, I definitely have an 11th grade playlist for you, where you will find Kings of Leon, Modest Mouse, Jimmy Eat World, State Radio. Those are the top ones. And then definitely, like, I'm telling you, Grand Theft Auto Vice City really influenced my music taste. I was listening to 80s music like The Outfield, but also Grandmaster Flash, and also Run DMC, and also Night Ranger. So there's a little sprinkling of weird stuff, and then of course some Pink Floyd, which took over like the majority of what I listened to. So that'll be linked down below. Before I continue on, having a great time. It's just about like a new friend who comes to town, and then is she still friends with her old friend, or is she finding out that her old friend is kind of a bitch? Like that's the direction that it's going. We need to make the food. You know what food I just remembered though? When I worked at Tim Hortons, there was this thing called a hot smoothie that they were trying out, and I'm sure I can find a picture online somewhere of like the signage, and it was such a weird concept, and it really was a push of a button, just like the French vanilla or the English toffee. So it was like creamy and fruity and milky, and it was very weird. The one that I remember was orange. Was it orange sickle or something like that? And the dye would like eat away at the plastic cups, and they had to discontinue it. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking, just putting off the inevitable. This is the bread. 1 piece for peanut butter, 1 piece for Cheez Whiz. My memory doesn't tell me if it was smooth or crunchy, but I have smooth in the house. My stomach is growling. I'm so hungry, but not for this. And the satisfying pop of the Cheez Whiz. It is so wrong. Really, like any of the food that I love and have memories of, it was just like cheese or peanut butter, or cheese mixed with peanut butter. Like there was this place attached to the Ramada Hotel where I worked called Perkins, and they had a peanut butter pie, and I loved that peanut butter pie. And then just like cheesy popcorn was a vibe. Hold on, my washing machine's going off. Okay, let's do it. Do I like it? No. Is it as horrific as I thought? No. Am I gonna take another bite? Yeah. Maybe this stemmed from like, do you remember Ritz crackers? I'm sure Ritz crackers are still a thing. I don't know why I said remember. The little sandwiches, they had peanut butter ones and cheese ones. And maybe I like started eating those together, and then I was like, what about a whole sandwich? No. Absolutely not. Never mind. This one was super weird in the end because it almost felt too familiar, and I feel like I've already read it in this childhood favorite series. Like this story is obviously like, it's important and it's relatable. A girl who has a friend and then has a new friend, and those two friends don't necessarily get along, which is exactly what my experience was in 11th grade. So even though this is like 7th grade, I still felt connected to it, I'm sure. And then it also brought in some like body image issues. This main character describes herself as fat multiple times in this book, and every time she like brings it up, her family members will be like, yeah, why don't you stop eating? And like, why don't you come to my workout class with me tomorrow? She literally hasn't seen her dad in like months, and the first thing he says to her is, wow, Steph, you've really been putting it on. And then she goes, I thought he would add something else, like, you still look great to me, but he didn't. And I think Judy Blume does a really good job of sharing insecurities, but still making her characters feel confident and something to emulate. But definitely lots of uncomfortable vibes in here. Like her class starts calling her El Chunko. This girl right here. It's so sad, and it's such a theme. I started reading the other one, like the big butts one, and obviously like, I guess I am picking up stuff where I feel represented. So it's not like every single book at this time was about, you know, size and feeling accepted. But I do feel like every Judy Blume that I'm rereading has that same kind of plot, and then has like a divorce plot line as well. And it just overall felt super familiar. Like these are all conversations that I've read before. It all felt super recycled, which didn't make it a bad book. Like, it's a good book. It's just, this really was so much of publishing at this time. And obviously the whole point is like, every teenage girl is insecure, regardless of what she actually looks like, her actual size. Like her best friend is like perfect, but she's so insecure about her intellect because she's too smart. Like everyone has to have an issue, which is definitely relatable. We got some Shakespeare in here. They're studying Macbeth, and then they're taking French class. And I feel like this, I literally learned the phrase creme de la creme. Anyway, not gonna rate this one, but I do think it more or less holds up. I know it's also a companion to another Judy Blume book where Rachel remains the main character, and I think it's a decent one to recommend. Hello, my friends. Today Liam and I are playing volleyball, and I have bruised my forearms because I have terrible form. I'm reading the book about big butts, and I brought this jean blanket because this was gifted to me in 11th grade. What is the best secret in here? My parents are related. See, some of these are fun and some of them are not appropriate for my child. Hey, this one's written in Braille. Do you know what Braille is?
Yeah.
The love of my life is ugly. Uh-oh. Okay, my husband's here now, so I can ignore my child. Basically, there was this girl, and all of her closest friends always got gifted a jean blanket on their birthday that her grandma made. So it was a gift from her, but it was more like her grandma put in all the work. She would collect jeans and just make all of these blankets for people, and everybody wanted one. And by everyone, I mean me. So I knew her since like 8th grade, but we got close in probably 10th or 11th, and I felt so special when I finally got my jean blanket. There's a little tie on it so you can wrap it up. I've had it ever since. I use it every single summer, multiple times a summer. It comes camping with me. It's like one of my favorite possessions because it's so durable. So that's definitely like one of the best gifts I've ever gotten. Now, the book that I was gifted as well, it was by a friend, and it was more like she was going through all of her bookshelves and she liked that one but didn't want to keep it, and so she passed it along to me. And so far I'm halfway through it, and it's just about this girl's weight. Like, the entire thing is her feeling fat. She's hooking up with a boy for the first time though, and she's creating a list of rules. She's like, because I have so many things working against me, as in her fatness, and that's basically it, she decides she needs to be more generous to boys, let them kiss her more often so she can like make up for her faults. And so that's a bummer, but there is a boy that she is kissing and she's really interested in. His name is Froggy. Our main character's name is Virginia, and just like the other book, like, first of all, it's set during Halloween time, which the other one was too, the Judy Blume one. So that's been fun. It kind of like matches the vibe and the weather, but it's just so much about this girl's body and weight, which makes sense, but I was expecting another storyline. I'm halfway through now, and I don't know if it's going in any other direction besides her mom like taking her to the doctor because she lost her baby fat when she was 15, but her daughter's not. So she's like, doctor, tell me how to make her lose weight. And the doctor's like, I'm not really worried about her weight, I'm worried about her health, so let's focus on health. And I feel like that's a good message, but already she is like losing a lot of weight, and I feel like that's changing her perception of herself. I don't know at this point if it's like a good or bad thing. Well, I know a lot of it is bad because she's literally pasting like pictures of thin women on the fridge, like her mom is helping her. So that's not nice to read. I'm guessing it wasn't nice to read when I was 16 either. But I just read the synopsis for the first time, and it says, until a phone call changes, their lives are perfect until a phone call changes everything.
There you go.
So I got to the part with the phone call, and it's her brother getting suspended from college for rape. So I guess at this point in the book, I definitely don't remember what transpires after this or how this book handles any of those, like anything. I don't know what conversations are about to arise. He's moving back in with the family, and yeah, I guess it's going to be her dealing with that. I know I was asking for more storyline besides her body, but I wasn't expecting that. Oh, and also, since I checked in with you last, her father has gifted her with a mirror so she can track her weight loss. All right, final thoughts on this. I didn't love all the conversations. It's tough to review because the parents are very much like, we need to support our son no matter what. Like, he just made a little mistake, like, let's get him a lawyer, let's fight this. And obviously, like, I take issue with that, but I think you'd say that her parents are meant to be kind of antagonists, and she is having a hard time through this entire story. Like, they're not people who are the best for her, and everything she's going through is just like piling on top of each other. But also, the book made it a little bit too much about her. Like, she went to the girls' dorm room and she was like, I just needed to see you in person to like make sure you're okay. And the victim was like, it's okay because like I need to be strong and I need to move on and I can't let this define me. So like, just forget about it and come in for a cup of tea and I'll support you through this. Which, I mean, I want to be supportive of, because I do think that however you handle things, that's how you handle things. And the book's not trying to make light of the situation. It wants to put forth like a strong individual. I do think that the author was trying to have some like, just have a second chance at the story, because she did write a sequel for it like 15 years later. This got republished with some changes just as far as like technology. So I guess current teens can relate to like sending texts instead of sending emails. But then in the sequel, spoilers, sorry, I just spoiled myself for it because I wanted to know what the heck happened in that book. People are saying that he actually gets arrested in that book, and it's just like the whole storyline all over again, but done like, I guess, the right way. It is only a couple months in the future, but like this book could have done that, obviously. But then it gives her a different love interest who's actually good for her, and she loves him in the next book. There are a lot of good takeaways in here and things that I feel like I might have taken away as a teen, as far as just wanting to be yourself and fully expressing yourself and not letting other people judge you. But this situation she ends up in, where she's like traveling across the country without her parents' permission, and she's dyeing her hair and she's getting her eyebrow pierced, like she really goes hard for wanting to really express herself, but it is rooted in a lot of pain. And it's like the reason she's doing all of these things and living like her truest self doesn't really feel like good for her, because she's doing all these things for attention or just to act out, is what it feels like to me. And she does get to have some conversations with her parents throughout the book, like, don't talk about my body, let me do my own thing. There really are a lot of positives and a few negatives about this. I don't know how I would rate it, but anyway, that's everything that I read this past week or so, and some things that I was reading in 11th grade. So this one was just okay. This one was better than I expected. This one was exactly what I remember and just the perfect nostalgic pick. This one wasn't great, but what was I really expecting from a horror book for children? I don't know. The Long Walk was, I mean, held up, as did Lord of the Flies, as much as I remember. So I feel like overall, as far as my life and the vlog itself, this isn't my favorite childhood revisit, but the books, this was one of my most successful as far as like remembering things and enjoying things. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to reading your childhood favorites next year, and then my 12th grade. And then it's done. I'm sure I'll find other ways to continue the series in the future, but that's it for now. And I'll see you later. Bye!